Hi guys, welcome to Investing with JYK. Today we'll discuss a Russian company, Sistema. Okay, so Sistema is a Russian conglomerate that mainly just hold the telco MTS, and we'll go through some of their investment, and then we'll take a look why this might be worth investing at this moment. So first of all, these are their holdings. So they got this MTS, which is the largest telecom operator in Russia. Um, and so MTS stand together with Megaphone and Vion, I think. Um, so yeah, so I think they're the biggest out of them. And it's mostly based in Russia, where the other two has some international expansions. It earns a pretty decent amount of money. I think itself, um, MTB in here is MTS. Uh, MTS. Huh. Hold on. I think. Oh, mobile telesystems. Okay, so mobile telesystem. Okay, MBT is in here. It's called MBT. So itself, it yields about 6% and is 10 times PE, and then the return equity is pretty high. It was a pretty high debt, like 4x of debt. And this guy also, I think, trades below around book value or something. Let's see. It's actually pretty high in terms of book value. Okay, so that's MTS. And they own about 50% of that. And then they got this Sigija group, which does like paper and stuff. So they own 100% of this, and this stuff basically just has a bunch of forest, and it does essentially forestry. There might be something that's happening in China that might need Russian pulp, because from what I know, since July-ish, 2017, the Chinese government has cracked down on waste paper imports, and has also instituted a fairly strict um, uh, regulation on the whole paper making thing. Okay, so this Detskimia is children retail, so they own quite a big part of it. Metsi is medical, and they 100%, and they got this regional power supplier. I like these quite a lot. So it's 91% owned, and RTI makes like defense um, chips. So this looks very suspicious, because this very much looks like a Pentium, like a Pentium 4, I think. Doesn't look Russian at all, but whatever. Hospitality, they have just some houses, and so sorry, some hotels basically, and they manage it. And they also have a fund, but not with their own money, mostly with outside capital, so they charge the management fee. And same thing here. They have a bank. Uh, it's not very profitable. And they have a pharmaceutical, and they have this pretty large agriculture company, 50% of that. And they have some real estate and some random other group like tech. Okay, so we've gone through that. Let's look at how each segment performs. Right. So they actually discuss that. MBT, you can see the revenue is very high, so ignore the revenue. Look at the adjusted profit. It's 30 billion rubles. Okay, so keep it in mind. This is the majority of their income. They own 50% of this guy. So I'm not sure if that accounts for the 50%, but either way, this is the majority of their income. And then if you go down here, you can see the Deskmir thing, which has like $3 billion in profit, basically. So, not dollars, 3 billion rubles, so it's like a half of MBT. And this thing is basically not making, the paper thing is not making anything. It's like 2 billion. And you got the agriculture thing, which is like 1 billion. And then you got another 1 billion, break even, 0, something like that. Here you got a break even negative break even slash negative here. And real estate, the profit is 1 billion-ish. And again, the rental asset, the profit is like 1 billion-ish. Right, so if you look down, I mean, here this actually loses quite a bit of money. So this stuff loses like 2 billion, and this thing makes about 2 billion. So that kind of cancel each other out. And the hospitality thing has a small loss. The pharmaceutical has no earning. That's basically them. Okay, so about 80, I would say like 70-80% of the profit comes from MBT. So you are basically buying MTS. You're basically buying this. Okay. So let's so none of the business is growing very well. So this is not a growing business you're getting. Okay. The main excuse me. The shares took a pretty bad beating if you look at their share price. It's traded very thinly here in US, but you can see that in 2013 they were at $30. Now they're at $3, so it's 90% down. So what happened in here? This is very interesting. We can take a look. But the two things that's pretty bad that happened to them. One, they had a lawsuit that they had to settle. Let me find it out. They had a lawsuit. Where are we? You can see here, but it's what we'll probably need to go here. The financial liabilities went up by quite a lot, and you might wonder what is going on. The main problem was there was a line item up here, the settlement agreement. So they incurred 100 billion. That's like 3 years of MBT's profit. 100 billion ruble of some kind of fine. So I forgot exactly what they were. So 100 billion ruble Sistema settlement. Oh yeah, Rosneft. That's actually the same problem. Rosneft, Sistema will have to pay 100 billion rubles to Rosneft on a Bashneft problem. And then that actually was really screwed up. If you look at Sistema, if you look at the Wikipedia article, right? This is actually very screwed. This is the risk you run in investing in Russia. So 72% of Sistema's interest in Bashneft. So 72% of Bashneft was owned by Sistema, was seized by the Russian government. And so here you have a lawsuit. And here is when Sistema would have to pay Rosneft. But the other weird thing is, what happened to that 72%, and how much is that 72% worth, right? So I looked up the owner, the effective owner of Sistema, and you can see that in here, the Russian investigator said that he had some money laundering stuff. So they took when he acquired Bashneft, so they took 72% of the ownership. And into December, they gave him, sorry, in 2015, they gave back some of the money and said, you know, in compensation for the damages. And in 2016, all the criminal things got dropped. Okay, so this is really stupid because this is only 70 billion rubles, right? So let's say 72 billion, and so 100% of the share, the stake would be worth 100 billion rubles. And if you then go to Bashneft, I think Bashneft, yeah. So Bashneft, nowadays the price is the same as in basically 2015. Let's say, you know, it was February, so somewhere here, let's say half off, right? It is worth 300 billion, 330 billion. So even if you take half off, it should be 160 billion rubles. So 160 billion rubles times 70%, right? So 165 in this case times 72. Wow, let's see. In 2015 is this guy. So actually, it's not. Well, it depends. If you look at the beginning of 2015, yeah, they were really, really low. But before the whole crazy thing happened, it was trading at 2,000. Right? So, so depending on which price you look at, either he got a okay deal, or he got completely screwed. So yeah, so that's some risk you run in investing in Russia. Now, that 100 billion ruble, can they pay back? Yeah, it's 3 years of profit. They should be able to pay back. And the currently, even so, let's look at their balance sheet, right? So let's look at the balance sheet. So here's the balance sheet. You know, very little goodwill, so and some reasonable amount of so add those up, they're about 10% of the assets, basically. Okay, so it's not excessive. And if you go down here, the liabilities, so these are the liabilities, and then you got the settlement, which is I don't know why this is saying 80 billion. Probably some of that is current or something. But either way, their equity accounting for the settlement stuff is this number. You can see it dropped by a huge amount, basically because of this settlement. So, yeah, went down like, say 90, close to 85, something like that. Without this, they would have made a profit. I think if you look at the income statement, so the comprehensive loss was 47. So if you add 100 to that, they actually made a decent profit. But here is Russia for you. Okay, so now we know the equity is 123 billion rubles. Now let's just look at the stock capitalization is 107 billion rubles. So you're getting it at a slight discount to book value. And I would say even if you subtract the intangible, which is 2, okay, so let's do that. Negative 97666 54081. So these are the intangibles, and then you add 122,823, 122,823. Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, I forgot about this. Yeah, so basically in terms of their equity, now intangible is a huge portion. But if you just look at book, it's about like 0.8, because it's 107, 10764, that's just 107, 123 or something. So like 0.87, 0.8, 0.9, let's say 0.9 PB. Okay, so you say, okay, it's cheap, but why is this any useful? I found a let's first look at their stock chart. That's when their stuff got taken away from. This is when Bashneft was taken away. This is when they were fined. Right? So they're now here. Now we looked through their actual holdings, the conglomerate holdings. They were doing okay. There was not much of nothing was going really bad. Right? So there's some decent growth with MTS, and I also found this thing, their stock and dividend policy. So looks like they have a dividend policy saying that it's the higher of the minimum dividend is gonna be the higher of either 6% or 1.19. In this case, the price is 11.23, so 11 point, well, in this case 0.12, okay? So 1.19 divided by 11.13 is more than 10% dividend. So you get 10% dividend. That is, I think that is pretty good, and actually I think it will be sustainable. So the guy has a very strong incentive to keep this stuff afloat, and Russian rich Russian oligarchs, they have pretty lavish lifestyle, so they need the dividend flowing to keep to finance their lifestyle. And aside from the the lawsuit, which is now behind us, all their holdings are doing just about fine. So I think, let's look at the income statement again. So I think it's going to be a fairly decent return here from here on. So you got what? Operating income is 9.1, right? Ignore this, you end up with like 50 billion, and then you take the income tax, so you're looking at like 39 billion. and then you lose about 5 billion, so 35 billion. And so that just means so 35 billion on the total market cap of just 100 billion. You're looking at like three times price to earnings ratio. So yeah, I think this might do fairly well. And yeah, if you like this, oh yeah, also keep in mind, always keep in mind, this is Russia. Bashneft might happen again. We never know. Although in this case, they're only big holding left. There used to be like two big holdings, Bashneft and MTS. They lost Bashneft entirely, so they have like one thing left. I think it's unlikely they will try to take MTS away from it because Bashneft was supposed to be this very lucrative stuff, but telco is never extremely lucrative. Plus, there's also competition as well. So yeah, so if you like this, please subscribe and click like, and let me know if you have some stocks that you have in mind that you would like me to take a look at. Thanks.